Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3675BN. Today's date is June 27th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Trump setting a trap for Obama? Think Uranium 1? Sum of all fears? Iron Eagle. Hey, are you noticing thinner hair, a bigger forehead, or more strands in your brush? You're not alone. Stress, aging, hormones, and nutrient deficiencies can all trigger hair loss. No worries. The Wellness Company has a doctor-formulated solution that works from within and on the surface. It's called Roots, a topical hydrogel powered by 7 peptides that support the body's natural repair processes to promote visibly thicker, fuller hair. With a consistent daily use, Roots helps extends the growth phase and reduce shedding. It includes methylene blue, which supports mitochondrial function and delivers antioxidant benefits directly to the follicle. Whether you're dealing with postpartum hair loss, hormonal shifts, or early signs of aging, Roots targets the root cause. Literally, head to twc.health/X22 and use code X22 to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's twc.health/X22 and use code X22 to get 10% off, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that Trump is winning every step of the way. Think about what the Supreme Court just ruled right now, where these federal judges, they can no longer do a blanket injunction. They must stay within their district where they are a judge. They just can't say it's the whole country. So basically, the Supreme Court said, no, you're not allowed to do this. You only can do that within your area. No more universal injunction, which allows Trump and the Patriots to move forward on his policies. Remember, the Constitution will always win out. But what this does do, it allows us to see which judges decided to try to control the executive branch, which judges are blackmailed, which judges are working for the system, and this allows us to keep track of them. And then when we get control of the House, when we get control of the Senate, we have the ability to remove them. Remember, this is about having judges in positions where they're going to follow the rule of law, because if we're going to have accountability, if we're going to have justice, we're going to need judges that are going to have to follow the law, instead of having judges that are blackmailed following the deep state system, where the deep state system is telling them, make sure you don't convict any of these people. Make sure you have the case thrown out. So I do believe this is very, very important, and it shows the people that the Constitution will always win. And it also shows us who is part of the system. And that should tell you everything you need to know right there. Now, the other thing that we could see is that since Trump went into Iran and destroyed their uranium enrichment, Iran is having a very difficult time. The state terrorists around the world, they're having a very difficult time because, again, they're losing the ability to get their weapons. They're losing their ability to get their funding, and everything that Obama and team put into place, it is completely and utterly falling apart. Now, of course, the deep state is trying to fight back. This is why the propaganda news is all going after Trump about the uranium enrichment. This is why they're saying, oh, the trucks, why were they there? Are they trying to remove some? Oh, it only puts Iran, a couple months behind. Before they were saying that they were way out, 3 years away from making a nuclear weapon. I do believe in the end, does this really have to do with a nuclear weapon? Well, maybe, because I do believe in the end, their plan was to use nuclear weapons to start a war. But is this much, much bigger than just the uranium? Because you have to remember, when Obama was in office and when Trump was in office, the uranium enrichment was very, very low. When Trump allowed the resident to live in the White House, all of a sudden, Iran decided to enrich a lot of uranium to a point where it was 60, 70, 80% or something like that. So again, think about it. The resident came in, opened the borders, had people come into this country, started wars in Ukraine, started wars in the Middle East, had the Afghan complete chaos in there, and the economy was breaking down, all part of the 16-year plan. And they were preparing a nuclear weapon. Maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. But think about it. Trump allowed the resident to be in there so they would accelerate their plan so people could see it, and he could use this to his advantage. Without the resident in position, he wouldn't have opened the borders, and Trump wouldn't have shut the borders. The people wouldn't be with him. If the resident wasn't in this position and living in the White House, the economy wouldn't be failing. We wouldn't see the inflation. We wouldn't see the higher fuel prices. The people are with him, so he's able to reverse all that. Without the resident in this position, we wouldn't see the Ukraine war. We wouldn't see the war in the Middle East. And Trump would not have the ability to shut down the wars and show that they're the war makers and he's the peacemaker. Without the resident in the position, Iran wouldn't have enriched uranium. And this gave Trump the ability to go in there finally and shut it all down. Now, Trump, he knows that they'll try to do this again. But the message is, if you do, we will come in and bomb you. So the fake news can sit there and say, hey, look, they're going to do it again. Well, the answer to that is we're going to destroy it again. So they are on notice. They know Trump is serious about this, and they know that he'll do it again. But again, why is Trump bringing so much attention to uranium? Because I do believe he's setting a trap for Obama. Because remember, Hillary, Obama, and the rest, they were dabbling in uranium sales. And that went to Russia, went to Syria, went to Iran, went to many other places. Now, it looks like Lindsey Graham, and I know a lot of people don't like Lindsey Graham. And of course, what do? You always keep your enemies closer. Remember going back a little bit in time, he asked Kavanaugh a lot of questions about enemy combatants. And now he's out there saying that there is uranium that is missing, about 900 pounds, which can fit in a garbage can, a 33-gallon container. Yes, it's very, very heavy to move, but it can be moved. And this Lindsey Graham, this individual, he is now setting the idea that there is uranium missing. Now, we have had a lot of posts that had to do with uranium, Syria. Maybe there's a site there where they've been enriching uranium out there, which I do believe we might find out very, very soon. And I do believe that this is all going to link back to Obama, because you have to remember, the uranium isotope can be traced. And I think this is going to be traced back to those people that actually sold it. And I think this is going to be a major, major problem for Obama, and this is going to set him up. And I do believe Trump is preparing all of this. Now, remember, Lindsey Graham is also an Iron Eagle. Think about that for a second. We'll be talking about a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what Congress just passed right now. And let me know if it makes any sense here, because the House has passed a bill to deport illegal aliens who get caught drunk driving. Wait a minute. You're in here illegally. You already broke the federal law. They should be deported automatically. Why do we have a law that says the criminals that came into this country, if now they get caught drunk driving, they should be deported? No. If you're illegal, you get deported. Why do we need this law? Does that make any sense? I know they're calling it undocumented immigrants, which is an illegal alien. And what's very interesting is that 160 Democrats voted against it. I feel like the Congress that we have today continually just makes laws on top of laws on top of laws when we already have the laws. And think about it. We have the Constitution, but they keep making laws that, oh, hey, let's make another law that says you have to follow the Constitution. Well, that's why the Constitution's there. Hey, let's make a law that you can have a weapon. Well, that's why the Constitution's there. Hey, let's make a law that you can speak freely. Hey, that's why we have the Constitution. They continually do this, and it's getting a little ridiculous where they keep making the same laws over and over and over and over. It doesn't make sense anymore. Just like it didn't make any sense where the D's went down and visited Garcia, and the D said he was a Maryland man. The D says, oh, no, he's our constituent when he's a citizen of El Salvador. And they brought him back to this country, and the court proved, the Department of Justice proved that he was an MS-13 gang member. He was a human trafficker, a wife beater. And now they're going to deport him to a different country. Because remember, the ruling is Trump has the ability to deport these illegals to other countries, because if their country doesn't want them back, they can send them other places. Plus, we also need a place to hold all these individuals. And this is why out in Florida, they're building alligator Alcatraz. And it looks like this is being built very, very quickly, because remember, when you're going around collecting all these people, you need a place to hold them until you put them on a plane and send them away. So I do believe we have something in Texas that's being built, something in Florida that's being built. And what's very interesting is that they're going to be surrounded by alligators. That makes sense. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the Supreme Court, they have ended the lower court assault on Trump with the nationwide injunctions. This is a very, very big win. And this was a 6-3 ruling. The majority found that lower courts exceeded their authority by issuing a nationwide block on Trump's birthright citizenship restrictions. And remember, birthright citizenship had nothing to do with you crossing the border and giving birth on our land in the United States. This had to do with slavery and the black population back in time. But what's very interesting about this is what Coney Barrett wrote about Ketanji Brown Jackson. Julie Kelly put this out and said, "Oof, from ACB against KBJ in nationwide preliminary injunction opinion. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. No one disputes that the executive has a duty to follow the law, but the judiciary does not have unbridled authority to enforce this obligation. In fact, sometimes the law prohibits the judiciary from doing so. Observing the limits on the judicial authority, including, as relevant here, the boundaries of the Judiciary Act of 1789, is required by a judge's oath to follow the law. Justice Jackson skips over that part. Looks like even Amy Coney Barrett is sick of KBG illogical and political BS. Absolutely. All we got to do is follow the law. And you know what? Everything else will take care of itself." And it seems like Amy Coney Barrett is basically implying that Ketanji Jackson is too dumb or unwilling to read legalese, literally her job description. Now, wasn't she put in there? Wasn't she a DEI hire? And wasn't she nominated by Biden? Was that the auto pen? That's very, very interesting. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. Now, since the Supreme Court has now ruled and blocked the nationwide injunctions, and Eric Doherty put this out, Trump says, well, it looks like we can now move forward with the list of policies, ending birthright citizenship, ending funding for sanctuary cities, suspending refugees resettlement, freezing unnecessary federal funding, stopping taxpayer funds for trans surgeries. So everything that Trump wants to do at this point in time, he can go ahead and do it. Now, that doesn't mean a lot of these federal judges, maybe some will come out of the more will come out of the shadows. They're going to try probably to get around this somehow, some way. And they're going to try to spin it saying, hey, this doesn't apply to me because I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. But again, it's not going to work. Trump has his orders, which means no matter what these judges say, he's not going to listen because the Supreme Court gave him the green light. Period. The end. That is it. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Doge, they are really cutting a lot from the government right now. And I do believe Trump is doing this because, number one, the deep state players, they bloated the system so much that it would make it very, very difficult to remove their system. That's why they did it. And they put their people in place, and they're the ones who actually run the system. And as Trump removes all these different agencies and removes the funding and removes the people, every day that passes and he does this, it makes it harder and harder for the deep state players to reestablish this. And in the end, Trump is going to cut off all the funding, which means the open-ended credit card, which is called the Federal Reserve. Because without the money, you can't bloat the government. It's kind of impossible. So President Trump's Office of Management and Budget just lobbed a political grenade at the foreign aid swamp, recommending an immediate end to nearly 24 war crimes and accountability projects that have quietly siphoned U.S. tax dollars into the pockets of activist lawyers, globalist NGOs, and ivory tower academics from Kiev to Yangon. Among the loudest complainers, Global Rights Compliance and the Legal Action Network, two foreign outfits billing Washington to document Russian atrocities while angling for lucrative courtroom show trials in The Hague. The OMB memo gives Secretary of State Marco Rubio a narrow window to appeal, but insiders say Rubio is unlikely to rescue most of these projects. Why? Because we don't need them. And they're all put into place to assist the deep state players. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is, remember Big Balls? Well, he was able to go back to Doge, but now he is no longer with Doge. He is now joining the Social Security Administration as a special government employee. So the question is, why is he moving into the Social Security Administration? Well, remember, going back in time, they found something like 12 million Social Security numbers that were issued to dead people and they were still active. Those were easily taken care of because they're very obvious. I think he's being brought in to find the Social Security numbers that are not so obvious. But C3 put this out and said, glad Big Balls is at the Social Security Administration. These were the number of illegals given Social Security numbers during the Biden administration. In 2021, 270,000. In 2022, 590,000. In 2023, 964,000. 2024, 2 million. This is treason. Who approved this? So they got rid of the 12 million or so fake accounts, and those are gone because those are people that were dead and they were over, 100 years old, 120 plus years old. Big Balls, I do believe, is going to root out the remaining fake Social Security numbers. And these aren't as easily spotted, so they didn't need someone in there that can go through the code, go through the entire system and spot them and figure out, are these real or are these fake? And I do believe he's going to find out that there's a lot of them. And you have to remember, the illegals, the deep state players, use the illegals and they give them Social Security numbers so they can send in the mail-in ballots. They give them fake IDs from China so they can send in the mail-in ballots. So basically, they shut down the fake IDs. They're removing the Social Security numbers. They removed 12 million. Now you're going to see a lot more being removed. And it's making it a lot difficult now for the deep state players to use the mail-in ballots, especially when Trump starts to deport all the illegals. So, yeah, this is going to be very, very interesting as we move forward. And what Trump is doing right now, he's making the midterms very, very safe because it's going to be very, very difficult for the deep state players to cheat in this midterm. I mean, I'm not saying in each state you might not see cheating. Of course, they're going to try to cheat. But on the scale that they did back in 2020 and 2024, it's going to be much more difficult, especially with his executive order and him removing all of this. So this is going to be very, very difficult. And I do believe before the midterms, we're going to see a lot more illegals removed from the system. Think about what the Supreme Court just handed Trump right now. The nationwide injunctions are gone. He's going to follow the Supreme Court no matter what the federal judges say. They're going to say, no, the Supreme Court already ruled. Sorry, we can't listen to you anymore. And this is going to really help in the midterms because from now into the midterms, he can get rid of a lot of these individuals, especially when you're shutting down their ability to cheat every step of the way. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the Senate parliamentarian, who's a Democrat, of course, this individual is being used to basically stop the big, beautiful bill and strip out everything the deep state has done over a long period of time, where they've been giving aid out to illegals through Medicaid, where they have their gun control laws. And you can see the Senate parliamentarian, this individual stripped the eased suppressor short barrel firearm regulation from the reconciliation bill. This is why these individuals are in here. These individuals, they have been put in a place to actually run the government. The Senate's not running the government. Yes, you have certain individuals that have to vote, and those people are blackmailed. Those people are part of the system. But you have the people, the unelected people, that are part of the system that are actually running everything. And remember, this individual is in an advisory role, and it doesn't mean that Thune has to listen. But again, Let's talk about our health. The government has warned that weight loss drugs like Ozempic could do more harm than good, including increasing the risk of thyroid cancer and muscle loss in some users. Yes, some people are losing weight, but at the cost of their strength, energy, and health. Luckily, there are healthy alternatives that still help manage weight without the increased risks of Ozempic. This is why I use Keto Elevate, and I'm obsessed with the results I'm seeing and feeling. Our bodies already know how to burn fat. It just needs the right signal. That's where the magic powder comes in. It uses all natural C8 MCT to boost ketone production, which helps my body burn fat for fuel, curb cravings, increase energy, and support faster, easier weight management. Grab your bag now while it's 51% off only at ketowithx22.com. Plus, order today to also receive VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The Top 14 Ketogenic Foods, and a 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free shipping with your order. Once again, this limited time offer is only available at ketowithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Those rhinos, they're using this as a way out because they know if they vote no, they're primaried. But I think people see through this. I think people see them for who they really are, and they realize that, yeah, you're using this as cover. Nice try, but it didn't work. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that we could see that Khamenei, he is now back. Everyone thought he was gone or whatever happened, but it doesn't look like he's really in control. He's still fighting, I do believe, the other government that is there. And you have to remember, he lost a lot of his generals. He lost a lot of those people that were behind him. And I do believe there's a struggle going on with Iran. And he's continually out there, pushing hostility, pushing hate, and trying to convince his people that they won this great war, even though their enrichment facility was bombed and destroyed, and all his generals and scientists, they were killed, and all the factories where they were, funding and creating the state-funded terrorist weapons, those were destroyed. But again, he's got to do what he's got to do, because if he doesn't, he's gone. So he's going to keep pushing this, and I do believe right now we have a dual system that is operating within Iran. And I don't think one has control over the other. I think there are certain individuals within Iran that are now pushing against the Khamenei regime. And what's very interesting is that the U.S. ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, who was appointed by Biden, she has departed her position in Moscow. And there's been no announcement or name of the replacement, which is very, very interesting. And remember, in the last 20 plus years, no American official has spent more face-to-face time with Putin than U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. So I do believe that Putin, Trump, they already have multiple deals in place, and I do believe that they'll be releasing them in due time. Optics are very, very important. But since Khamenei came out with his message, Gert Wilder decided to basically respond to it, and he said the following: "You lost and went on your knees for Trump and Netanyahu, you dickhead." I think that's very, very funny. So that's very, very interesting. The other thing we could see is that Israel right now, and Election Wizard put this out, they have rejected Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's request to postpone his testimony in his trial over alleged corruption after Trump said the case should be dismissed. Now, once again, Trump is backing him up. He's saying, I'm all for it. This is ridiculous. And again, I do believe there was probably some type of deal that was made where Netanyahu was listening to Trump, and he did exactly what Trump wanted him to do. And I do believe that Trump, he might have said, listen, I'll back you. Doesn't mean he's going to go into Israel and, fight for him. He's just backing him, saying, oh, yes, I'm with you. And I do believe there were certain deals that were made, and this is how Trump works. Now, the other thing that we can see, which is very, very interesting, is that the fake news, they continually push the idea that now Iran can make their nuclear weapon at any moment. They can rebuild it with no problem. But you have to remember what Trump set up right now. He set it up and he set the precedent that if that is the case, it will just be destroyed again. There'll be no questions. There'll no hemming and hawing. If the enrichment happens, the enrichment facility will be bombed and destroyed in a matter of minutes. That is the precedent that he set. So the fake news, the deep state players can push fear. They could say that this can happen, but everyone knows what Trump is going to do. He's already done it. Clandestine put this out and said, it does not matter what the mainstream media say about how long the Iranians were set back on the nuclear program. The timeline is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that Iran know that if they try again, we can delete them off the map without suffering a single casualty. Trump just showed the unparalleled power and precision of the U.S. military, and Iran know that if they flirt with nukes, we can destroy them with relative ease. And Trump took it very easy on them this time. This operation served as a future deterrent via show of force. And it was not just Trump who didn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. All the other Muslim nations in the region, Saudi, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, in addition to Russia, China, the EU, and all the other powers of the world, also agreed Iran should not have the nuclear weapon. Hence, why they agreed to stand down and let Trump attack without retaliation. Iran were isolated by the world, and everyone sided with Trump. The objective was not to delay Iran from making nuclear weapons. It was to deter them from ever trying again. And that is exactly what he did. So all this talk from the fake news and from Khamenei and all the people that are not in control, it's meaningless. Because if Trump says, oh, you're making it again? Boom. Now I destroyed it, and now it's destroyed forever. You'll never be able to do anything in this area. And once again, they know that this is what's going to happen. And think about it. Russia's behind him. China's behind him. The Middle East is behind him. And they asked Trump, would you bomb Iran again? You know what Trump said? Well, if they enrich uranium to levels and it concerns him, yeah, he'll bomb them again. No problem. Trump, he sent a message to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Why would the so-called supreme leader, Khamenei, of the war-torn country of Iran, say so blatantly and foolishly that he won the war with Israel when he knows his statement is a lie? It is not so. As a man of great faith, he is not supposed to lie. His country was decimated. His 3 evil nuclear sites were obliterated. And I know exactly where he was sheltered and would not let Israel or the U.S. Armed Forces, by far the greatest and most powerful in the world, terminate his life. I saved him from a very ugly death, and he does not have to say thank you, President Trump. In fact, in the final act of the war, I demanded that Israel bring back a very large group of planes, which were headed directly to Tehran, looking for a big day, perhaps the final knockout. Tremendous damage would have ensued, and many Iranians would have been killed. It was going to be the biggest attack of the war by far. During the last few days, I was working on the possible removal of sanctions and other things, which would given a much better chance to Iran at a full, fast, complete recovery. The sanctions are biting. But no, instead, I get hit with a statement of anger, hatred, and disgust, and immediately dropped all work on sanction relief and more. Iran has to get back into the world order flow, or things will only get worse for them. They're always so angry, hostile, and unhappy. And look at what it has gotten them. A burned out, blown up country with no future, a decimated military, a horrible economy, and death all around them. They have no hope, and it will only get worse. I wish the leadership of Iran would realize that you often get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Peace. So the question is, who's he really speaking to? Is he speaking to the Khamenei, or is he speaking to those people that are now pushing to remove him? Because remember, he spoke to someone in the Iranian regime to have peace, to create the ceasefire and the peace deal. And Iran discontinued firing on Israel. So who is Trump actually speaking to? And is he saying to them, listen, if you want the sanctions removed, if you want to have trade with the rest of the world, if you want to rejoin the world, it is time to remove your leadership. He's talking to the people of Iran. That is what he's doing. But I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they have now set all of this up to go after Obama. How do we know this? Well, the Skiff put this out and said the following. Obama, Biden, and Hillary's multi-billion-dollar secret and the blood money behind Osama bin Laden and the SEAL Team 6. Carolyn Levitt just blew up the press room calling out Obama's $1.7 billion cash payments given to Iran stacked on pallets in the back of airplanes, which helped Iran build 3 nuclear programs. What if the total amount given exceeded the $1.7 billion? Not only did a U.S. president give a foreign nation billions in cash, the cash was traced to Iran-backed terrorist groups and went towards building Iran's nuclear program, which was just shut down by Trump's precision military airstrikes. The story gets even deeper. What if the money was also connected to something else? Another monumental event. A monumental event that we, the American people, believe went down a certain way, but actually ended up happening completely different. Alan Parrott breaks down the full story and what the money sent to Iran was really for and where the money actually ended up. Not only was the cash connected to Iran's nuclear program and other Iran-backed terrorist groups, it was also connected to the trophy kill of Osama bin Laden, which was set up by Hillary Biden and Obama right before his reelection. An arranged death that went wrong ended up costing members of SEAL Team 6 their lives in Benghazi. How is Biden involved? What was John Brennan's role? And what really went down in Benghazi? And how is it connected to Hillary Clinton and her involvement with the members of SEAL Team 6 and their demise? There's a reason they never released any photos or videos of the raid on Osama bin Laden. There's a reason why they buried him at sea, even though they never had done this before. And that reason is exactly why they took out SEAL Team 6. The truth is what we are fighting for, and we won't stop until we get it. The lies, the corruption, the murders, and the trafficking of innocent children ends now. We can't go on anymore like this, and we will not move forward in a positive direction as society until everyone involved is held accountable. So it's interesting because they continually call out Obama and how he sent money over to Iran. Now remember, Trump, he put out two posts or retruth a post. One said, all roads lead to Obama. Retruth if you want public military tribunals. The other one, there's a picture of Obama with pallets of cash all around him, and it says, we know. We know who's responsible for Iran's nuke program. Trump did both of these posts on Truth Social, letting us know that it was Obama. Clandestine put this out. Now, I'm really going to blow your mind. Remember when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago and they posted pictures of some docks? One was dated May 9th, 2018. That is the exact day Trump abandoned Obama's Iran deal. Then Trump confirmed the Biden DOJ were after docs about Iran. Trump shared a truth from Paul Sperry alleging that Biden DOJ were looking for info about Trump dismantling Obama's Iran nuke deal. Biden weaponized the DOJ FBI to try to steal the documents, proving that Obama-Biden committed treason. I think Mar-a-Lago raid had a lot to do with the deep state trying to cover up their plan to let Iran build nukes. Trump knew the entire time. Remember, part of the 16-year plan was what? World War III. It was supposed to be a nuclear war. So this is what they were planning on. Now we have Lindsey Graham at Disclosed TV put this out. Lindsey Graham, I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set. So let's see. Trump yesterday let us know, and during the press conference let us know, that the trucks that were parked out front, no one removed the enriched uranium. It was too hard, too heavy to do so. So the uranium was within the enrichment site. And the fake news, well, that story completely and utterly fell apart. Now we have Lindsey Graham saying the 900 pounds wasn't part of that. It was someplace else, and now it's just missing. Now think about this for a second. Remember, Lindsey Graham was the one who asked Kavanaugh about enemy combatants. How do you become an enemy combatant? If a civilian is dealing in treason, can they become an enemy combatant? And Kavanaugh says, yeah, they can. So he went through that line of questioning. We know it's in the post. Now Lindsey Graham is saying that uranium is missing. Does it seem like they're setting up a trap for Obama? Karma Patriot put this out and said, not sure about that, because Lindsey Graham is laying a perfect trap for the deep state with this comment. He's baiting them by dropping crumbs about classified intel that he knows they no longer have access to. Hate to give the guy credit, but this move is actually pretty epic. The deep state is in complete communication blackout. He's taunting them. Isn't that interesting? So they're blind. And now we have Lindsey Graham just letting everyone know that, hey, by the way, there's uranium missing. We don't know where it is. Then Karma Patriot put this out. Think Lindsey Graham is just giving the deep state a good old-fashioned MINEF? Well, I don't think so. Because you have to remember, for all his faults, and he has many, Lindsey Graham was an officer in the Judge Advocate General's Corps, JAG Corps, and an Iron Eagle in the United States Air Force. So think about that for a second. He was an Iron Eagle. Didn't we have a couple of posts with Iron Eagle? So we know that there's sale of Uranium-1 that went to Canada, went to Russia, went to Syria, went to Iran. We know Obama was part of that. We know Hillary Clinton was part of that. We know all of this from the posts. So that is very, very interesting. So in military slang, Iron Eagle is as follows. A colonel who wears the eagle insignia but never flies upward into general ranks. The iron part implies the eagle is heavy, static, grounded, no further upward movement. Graham had a legal career as a JAG officer, not a command or warfighter path typically leading to general rank. His extensive political career likely took priority, making further military advancement unlikely or impractical. Lindsey Graham is an Iron Eagle in the military slang sense. He reached the rank of colonel, did not promote to general, and retired honorably. And that reminds me of post 1254. April 24, 2018, Iran is next marker. SIG to Iran refers to more than continued payments of $250 billion. Iron Eagle, sweet dreams. So it looks like they're bringing the deep state players down this path of where is this uranium? I mean, we'll have to see if it goes any further than this, but I do believe in the end, what do we know about the uranium? Well, we know that it could be traced back to the originating country through the isotope. So we know that it could be traced back to the U.S. or wherever Obama got it, which I do believe was probably the U.S. maybe. And we'll know that they're the ones who were involved in the sale. So I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they are setting all this up because they were actually moving this uranium to get to Iran and get to Syria. And Syria might have a site where they're also enriching uranium. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. But I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they're now setting them up. Let's see how this goes, and let's see what else comes out. Now, the other thing that we could see is that yesterday we talked about how RFK Jr., how he was shutting down the vaccine industry, Gavi, the funding to Gavi. And we could see that Bill Gates, well, he's in panic mode right now. Remember, this is their system. This is what they set up from the very, very beginning. And remember, they were using vaccines as a bioweapon across the globe. Shadow of Ezra put this out and said, Bill Gates is in a panic mode after RFK Jr. froze all U.S. funding to Gavi, warning that the progress made on global vaccine is now in jeopardy. He says the world is facing global health crisis due to major aid cuts from the Trump administration. Gates claimed that without his vaccine programs, newborns in the poorest countries won't survive. Translation, crap, if this is ended, people are going to see that people are living longer, people aren't getting sick, people aren't dying, and people are having more children. And people are going to start to notice, wait a minute, the vaccines caused all of these problems. You see, when you end something and you let nature take its course, what can you see? You can see the difference between vaccinated and unvaccinated, just like we're seeing it today. We're seeing the difference between those people that took the bioweapon, the vaccinated, and those people decided, you know what, I don't want the bioweapon, the unvaccinated. You could see the health difference. And it's going to become very, very clear across the world. And people are going to notice that, wait a minute, the more babies are being born, less babies have autism, less people have medical issues. You're going to see the world start to change. And this is something they don't want you to see, because once you see it, you start to connect the dots and you start to say, holy crap, now we know what was causing the problem. Just like with the vaccines, the bioweapon that they released. You know that that was causing the problem because the unvaccinated people, they don't have all these illnesses. They don't have myocarditis. They're not dropping dead. They don't have fertility problems. And you're going to see this worldwide. And each generation, it's going to get better and better. People are going to be healthier and healthier. And this is what the deep state players don't want anyone to see. Because remember, without this, you think this is normal, what we see today. But we now know that it is not. And we're going to see the world completely and utterly change. Now, the other thing that we could see is that more and more people, they're doing a little bit of research into Zohran Mamdani, and they're finding out quite a bit about him. Paul Sperry put this out and said, most of Iran follows the Twelver branch of Shia Islam. Newly elected New York City Mayor Mamdani is a Twelver Shia Muslim whose open criticism of Israel has alarmed New York Jews. He refuses to condemn Hamas chants globalize intifada or from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Charlie Kirk put this out and said, Mamdani is promising to hike the tax burden for white neighborhoods. Maybe we shouldn't admit people from foreign countries who want to take things from native population based on their race. Absolutely. And remember, this individual falls right into what the deep state has been trying to do. Remember, it's infiltration from within. They didn't show up yesterday. This has been happening a very long time. Actually, it was put into motion during Obama's time. They were bringing the Muslims in. He's part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And what you're seeing is the end result now. This has been happening for a very, very long time. And Trump, he had to speed up their plan over the last 4 years so people could really see it. But again, most of these people, they were already here. They were already plotting and planning. And this is why they put a lot of these Muslims in all these different positions in government, because these individuals were pushing what they wanted, infiltration from within. Data Republican put this out and said, according to this letter by Representative Ogles, Mamdani openly aligned himself with convicted terrorists by referring to the Holy Land Five, who were found guilty of funneling millions of dollars to Hamas through the Holy Land Foundation as my guys in a rap song. The Holy Land Foundation is a U.S. specially designated terrorist organization shut down by federal authorities for acting as a fundraising front for Hamas. So he is in line with terrorists. And that should tell you everything you need to know. And you can see that the deep state players, they are definitely panicking right now because Trump has removed the executive privilege from all of them. And now they know if they lie in front of Congress, they can go to jail. If they don't testify in front of Congress, they can go to jail. And if they do lie and the truth comes out, they're screwed. If they tell the truth, they are screwed. They are trapped right now. C3 put this out and said, Anthony Burnell is refusing to testify to Congress about Joe's mental health. Who is Anthony? He's Jill Biden's chief of staff. He knows everything Jill did. He trotted out Joe knowing he had dementia. Imagine doing that to your spouse. Pure evil. And now it's going to be proven that he was not fit to be in this position. It's going to be proven that others used the auto pen. He had no idea what was going on. And in the end, people are going to realize that this entire presidency was a sham, and they cheated and they overthrew the United States government to put him in there. And those people that cheated and rigged the system and overthrew the United States government, they were the ones who were running the country. Think about what we're all going to find out. I think we already know this, but think about what the rest of the people are going to find out. They're going to be absolutely shocked. And remember, every step of the way, with everything that they're doing, they are setting precedent after precedent after precedent. And the Trump administration, they're going to use it against them every step of the way. Dan Scavino put this out and said, remember executive privilege was eviscerated from one administration to the next? Compliments of Joe Biden. Remember, you F around, you find out. So think about all the things they did to get to Trump. It seems like Trump almost lured them in, making them go to the extreme where they put all these precedents into place, which will allow him to use it against them. And what are they going to say? It's not allowed. They already did it to him. They're screwed. It's almost like he said, come on, bring it. I want you to do more. Keep doing more. Go. Get desperate. Thank you very much. You got my taxes? Good. Oh, wait, you got rid of the executive privilege? Good. Every step of the way, this is what they did. And now he has them. And you can see the deep state players, they're up to their old tricks once again. They're trying to convince everyone that Trump's approval rating is underwater. It's almost like when they try to convince us that Kamala Harris was beating him. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So they're trying to say that the U.S. voters, they're saying that Trump, he's completely on the wrong track, except that this is what everyone voted for. Rasmussen Reports countered the argument of the Emerson poll that said that 46% disapprove of him and 45% approve of him. Rasmussen Report says Trump approval is at 51% today, down a point from yesterday. So he's at 51%. Actually, this number is going to go way, way up because once the big, beautiful bill is passed, everything is going to change. And since we're just mentioned the big, beautiful bill, it looks like the Senate Democrat appointed parliamentarian is here to stay. Why? Eric Darty explains. In the name of tradition and optics, John Thune has declined to set her aside as she strikes down numerous MAGA terms from the big, beautiful bill. Now, once again, what are people seeing in this country? An unelected individual who's in an advisory role is telling the Senate body what to do and what should be in the Senate bill and what should be out of the Senate bill. The rhinos are using this as cover. The Ds don't need cover. They're all voting no anyhow. It's the rhinos who are voting, who are using this as cover because they don't want to vote no and they don't want this bill to pass with everything that's in it. So basically, they're protecting this Democrat. They're having an unelected official, unelected advisor, I should say, tell the country that this is what needs to be done. One person. Think about that for a second. What is the Senate doing? Not much. But again, there are ways around this. Now, if the rhinos allow this to happen, they're going to be primaried anyway. The people of this country are not stupid. They see what's going on. Those days of the fake news controlling the narrative is over. Haven't they realized this yet? Do they not see what's going on? And you could see the deep state players, they're trying to convince people that, no, it has to be this way. Jake Sherman put this out and said, Vance can't overrule the parliamentarian. That's not how this works. It would be a vote. And for what it's worth, a vote that I believe would be unsuccessful. Sean Davis responds and said, wrong on the parliamentarian procedure. The Senate parliamentarian is a staff advisor. She has no authority to rule. The parliamentarian advises the chair, and the chair issues a ruling. At that point, the Senate has the ability to appeal the ruling of the chair on reconciliation. The threshold to either appeal the ruling of the chair or to waive a point of order is 60 votes. In the event Vance were to ignore the parliamentarian's advice and rule that a Byrd point of order was not well taken, the provision would stay in unless there was 60 votes to overrule the chair and effectively sustain the point of order. However, an amendment to strike the language would still only need a simple majority to succeed. If a majority wants a provision removed, it's going to get removed regardless of what the parliamentarian advises or what Vance or whoever is in the chair rules. So right there, you could see the deep state players, they're trying to make it seem like this is set in stone, which it is not. And I do believe in the end, if the rhinos do not do the right thing, their days are numbered. It's over for them. I think it's over anyhow. So it really doesn't matter at this point in time. So this is probably why they're actually going against Trump right now, because they know no matter what they do, they're screwed. And they're absolutely right. But I do believe in the end, I do believe that they're all going to come together. And as the country sees what's going on here, I do believe they're going to have no choice but to vote for the bill. And we'll have to see how this all plays out. Trump let us know that the Senate now is going to be working on this all weekend. This is what he put out. The great Republicans in the U.S. Senate are working all weekend to finish our one big, beautiful bill. We're on the precipice of delivering massive general tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors, permanently securing our borders, an even bigger and more powerful military. I rebuilt it during my first term, and it is already the best, but we'll make it even better. unleashing our American economy, dominating the energy market, creating jobs, and getting money back to American families. The House of Representatives must be ready to send it to my desk before July 4th. We can get it done. It will be a wonderful celebration for our country, which is right now the hottest country anywhere in the world. And to think, just last year, we were a laughing stock. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, it's funny, keep saying the hottest country. We're moving into the summer months, and we know typically August is a very, very hot month, which means we might see something happen, but we'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, the other thing that we could see is that everything that happened with Trump and Elon, it looks like it was 100% fabricated. I think Elon had to step aside because we're moving into a place where there can be no distractions, where the fake news can't blame everything on Elon. And I think with the riots and everything else that's coming up, I think Elon and Trump, they had to go their separate ways, and they agreed upon this in the very, very beginning. Clandestine put this out and said, in retrospect, I think the Trump-Elon public feud was 100% fabricated. If Trump already had the deals in place with Saudi, Qatar, and UAE back in May, Trump knew he would have to pull off this maneuver. That would explain why Elon and Trump had their fight 2 weeks later and before Trump destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Elon had to go back to the private sector and did not want to seem like he was affiliated with the up-and-coming military operation, which would be understandably bad for business. Elon had to distance himself from the administration for optic purposes. I believe Trump and his team knew that they were going to strike Iran and stage the feud to create the illusion of distance between Elon and Trump so Elon could make a smooth transition to the private sector. Elon has been extremely quiet throughout this entire 12-day war and military operation. It's not an accident. He is distancing himself from the situation, and rightfully so. Trump and Elon knew this was coming, cheeky bastards. And I do believe that's exactly what happened. Think about it. Because think about his Tesla dealerships, all his businesses. This would be a disaster for him. And if you notice, he's very, very quiet. Even on his timeline, he's not really speaking about politics that much anymore. And I think this was definitely done on purpose. Remember, optics are very, very important. And I do believe Trump and the Patriots, they have been planning this for a very long time. And these plans have already been made. And all they're doing is they're watching the deep state players and they're watching which direction they go. And they're using game theory on the deep state players. So if the deep state goes left, they got to push them a little bit back to the right. If they go right, they got to push them a little bit back to the left. And I do believe this was done so this way we can get to our objective. And our objective is to obliterate, as Trump would say, the deep state players and take back our country, which I do believe we are now on track. The deep state is exposed. The judiciary is exposed. Soon, Obama, Hillary, and the rest are going to be exposed. You see, if the people don't understand what the treasonous crimes are, the people aren't going to root for accountability. And I do believe Trump wants to show the people what they have done to this country. Everyone can see what Biden has done to this country. Now you're going to see what Obama has done, what Hillary's done, what John Brennan has done, and many, many others. The people are going to demand accountability. The people are going to demand justice. And Trump and team, they're going to give it to them. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.